Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, staring into the dark silence that surrounds you, haunted not by noise or chaos, but by a subtle yet crushing feeling that you are somehow misaligned with your own existence? That despite the constant stream of activity, the social obligations, the career milestones, and the digital stimulation, there remains a gnawing emptiness within you that whispers, or sometimes screams, that your life is slipping away unfulfilled, unlived, and unseen. This haunting sense of existential dissatisfaction, the aching suspicion that you are wasting your life even as you try to fill it with motion, is not a defect to be medicated or silenced, but rather, as Carl Gustav Jung so profoundly understood, a message from the deepest layers of your being, a sacred signal from the unconscious that something essential has been neglected, that your soul is calling out for alignment, for purpose, and for a return to wholeness. Jung did not believe that the path to a meaningful life could be found through external achievements alone, nor through the suppression of discomfort with pharmaceutical ease, nor even through the temporary distractions that modernity endlessly offers. Instead, he proposed that the very suffering you feel, the restlessness, the sadness, the persistent low-level anxiety, is a message, an invitation from the psyche to embark on a transformative inner journey, a quest not for comfort, but for truth. To stop wasting your life, then, is not simply to become more productive, more efficient, or more socially validated. It is to awaken to the deeper realities within you that have long been buried under the expectations of others, under the noise of society, and under the many personas you have worn to survive in a world that rarely values inner authenticity. For Jung, the human being is not merely a biological machine programmed to perform tasks and accumulate accolades. Rather, each person is a unique expression of the self, an unfolding pattern that seeks to become whole through the process of individuation, a process that demands that you confront your inner world with courage, honesty, and above all, a commitment to live your truth, even when that truth diverges from the well-trodden paths laid out by culture, family, or fear. And yet, the great tragedy of modern life is that most people never begin this journey. They remain caught in the rhythm of routine, addicted to the security of conformity, haunted by an emptiness they cannot explain, medicated into numbness or distracted into complacency, unable or unwilling to face the deeper question that Jung believed was central to all psychological suffering. Who am I really beneath all the masks? To stop wasting your life, you must first stop lying to yourself about what matters. You must stop telling yourself that the job you hate is worth sacrificing your health for, that the relationship that drains your spirit is better than being alone, that the version of you that smiles in public but cries in private is acceptable if it keeps the peace. You must gather the courage to admit that much of what you've built may have been constructed on foundations that do not belong to you. Dreams inherited but not desired, goals admired but not aligned, standards adopted without ever questioning their relevance to your soul. Because as Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The unconscious is not your enemy, but your hidden guide. It is not a dark cellar of shame and trauma alone, but also a wellspring of instinct, creativity, and buried truth that, if ignored, will sabotage your peace, but if honored, will illuminate the path to a life that is yours and yours alone. This is why Jung did not treat symptoms like anxiety and depression as problems to be eradicated, but as meaningful expressions of an inner reality that demands attention. He understood that these emotional crises are often the soul's way of rebelling against a life that no longer fits, a life that has been outsourced to the expectations of others rather than rooted in the soil of the self. To begin the process of reclaiming your life, you must turn inward, not in narcissistic self-absorption, but in radical self-honesty. You must begin asking questions that pierce through the surface of your daily routines and touch the marrow of your being. What is my soul longing for? Where am I living out of alignment with who I truly am? What parts of myself have I buried to survive in this world, and how can I begin to unearth them again? These are not easy questions, nor are they meant to be answered in a day or a week. They are meant to destabilize the false structures upon which your unfulfilling life may be built, so that something deeper, something more true, can finally emerge from within. This is the beginning of individuation, the process by which you stop being merely a fragment of the world's expectations and start becoming whole. Individuation, as Jung described it, is not a spiritual luxury or a theoretical idea, but an urgent psychological need for anyone who wishes to live a life that feels genuinely worth living. It is the gradual unfolding of the self, the integration of the unconscious into the conscious personality, and the reclaiming of all those lost, rejected, and disowned parts of yourself that hold the key to your wholeness. It means you stop looking outside for approval and start looking inside for truth. It means you stop molding yourself to fit a world that doesn't care about your soul and start shaping your life to reflect the contours of your authentic inner reality. And this requires sacrifice, the sacrifice of illusion, the sacrifice of comfort, the sacrifice of everything you thought you needed to be in order to be accepted. But what you gain in return is freedom. The freedom to no longer perform for love, but to live from love. The freedom to no longer obey every impulse of fear, but to walk with fear as a companion rather than a master. The freedom to finally live as if your life matters, because it does, but only if you are the one truly living it. Jung warned that in a society that fears introspection, that glorifies busyness, and that rewards superficiality, many people will do almost anything to avoid the inner work that is necessary for healing. They will distract themselves with endless goals, numb themselves with substances or entertainment, over-identify with personas that make them feel safe but hollow, and suppress the quiet voice within them that whispers, "This is not who you are." And yet, there comes a moment, a breakdown, a betrayal, a loss, an inexplicable sorrow, when the persona can no longer hold the weight of the unlived life within. And it is in this moment of collapse, this dark night of the soul, that the real journey begins. Not because everything is finally fixed, but because you are finally willing to feel what you've been avoiding, to see what you've been denying, and to live from a deeper place than performance or fear. This is the sacred, wound through which the soul re-enters the story. Jung believed that the true healing of a human being does not come from the suppression of suffering, but from the courageous engagement with it, from allowing it to speak, to teach, and ultimately to transform you. Because suffering, when faced with courage and consciousness, becomes a threshold to meaning, and meaning is the antidote to a wasted life. Meaning is not found in chasing happiness, which comes and goes like weather. Meaning is found in choosing a path that aligns with the truth of your being, in sacrificing comfort for authenticity, in giving your pain a voice and your soul a home. And so, if you truly wish to stop wasting your life, you must begin by honoring the life within you that has been waiting, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades, for you to finally turn inward, to listen, to feel, to follow. This journey will not make you more acceptable to the world. It will make you more acceptable to yourself. And that is what Jung ultimately taught, that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with your own soul. Because when you are aligned with that inner truth, when you are living from the self rather than the persona, your life begins to carry a weight that no external success could ever provide. You wake up not just to accomplish, but to exist with presence. You make choices not from fear, but from freedom. You connect with others not from need, but from truth. And you suffer not as a victim, but as a participant in the great and mysterious unfolding of your own becoming. So, how do you stop wasting your life? You stop numbing, you stop fleeing, you stop betraying yourself for the illusion of acceptance, and you begin the long, often lonely, always sacred journey back to who you truly are. Not who the world told you to be, not who your fear convinced you to become, but who your soul has always been, waiting, whispering, calling. And if you have the courage to answer that call, then no matter how much time you have lost, you will find that it is never too late to begin again, not from the surface, but from the center. And once you take that first step inward, once you allow yourself to pause amidst the noise of the external world and truly listen to the faint, often trembling voice that arises from the depths of your own being, you begin to sense that this entire time, underneath all the striving and pretending and performing, there has been something within you watching, waiting, and aching to be seen not through the eyes of others, but through the silent gaze of your own soul, which does not ask for perfection, nor success, nor applause, but only truth, only presence, only the willingness to finally stop abandoning yourself. It is at this precise juncture, this quiet, invisible pivot in the landscape of your life, that the process of real transformation begins, not with fireworks or dramatic changes visible to the outside world, but with subtle shifts in how you relate to your thoughts, how you sit with your pain, how you breathe through your fear, and how you begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that you had once exiled in order to survive in a world that never taught you how to belong to yourself. Because, as Jung so poignantly observed, most people do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, by descending into the forgotten chambers of the psyche, where the rejected parts of the self still cry out for integration, and by standing there with open heart and steady presence, not as judge or enemy, but as witness, as ally, as the long-awaited return of the sovereign soul. And this descent into the unconscious, this willingness to confront not only the wounds and memories you've tried to forget, but also the vast potentials and instincts that have long been dormant, is not an act of weakness or regression. It is, in truth, an initiation, a kind of spiritual maturity that cannot be earned through mere knowledge or status, but only through the embodied experience of wrestling with your own shadows, of sitting with your own contradictions, and of surrendering the need to be someone else in order to finally become who you already are. Jung knew that the cost of ignoring this process, the price of refusing the call to individuation, was not simply the dull ache of an unlived life, but the projection of your unconscious pain onto the world around you, leading to endless cycles of conflict, disappointment, and self-sabotage, as you unconsciously seek outside yourself the healing and wholeness that can only be found within. And as you blame others for the suffering that is, in truth, a mirror of your own disconnection from your deeper self. And so, stopping the waste of your life is not about becoming more disciplined in your habits or more aggressive in your ambition. It is about becoming more honest in your introspection, more curious about your pain, more willing to trace the thread of meaning through your sorrow, and more courageous in dismantling the false self you constructed in order to survive, so that you might finally make space for the true self that has always been waiting to be born. This is why Jung's work remains not only timeless, but radically necessary in the modern world. A world that demands you stay busy, stay plugged, and stay productive, stay pleasing, but never invites you to be still, to be empty, to be alone with your own soul, to feel what arises in the absence of distraction, and to confront the terrifying but liberating possibility that the life you were given is not the same as the life you are called to live. because the life you are called to live is not defined by your achievements or your possessions, but by the degree to which you are willing to participate in your own becoming, to take full responsibility for your inner world, to integrate your pain rather than project it, and to move through the world not as a reflection of society's expectations, but as an authentic expression of your own unique essence, yourself. And in doing so, you may find that the more you align with your true nature, the less interested you become in competing, comparing, or convincing others of your worth. Because your very existence becomes an act of meaning, and your path, no matter how unconventional, no matter how solitary, becomes sacred not because others validate it, but because you walk it with integrity, with devotion, and with the fierce tenderness of someone who has finally remembered who they are. This is the gift of Jungian psychology, not to fix you, not to cure you, but to wake you up to the mystery, the beauty, and the responsibility of being fully human, which means being fragmented and whole, broken and healing, afraid and brave, all at once, and walking through the fire of your own transformation. Not with certainty, but with presence, not with perfection, but with purpose. And as you continue to walk this path, as you continue to honor your inner life with the attention and reverence it deserves, you may come to realize that what once felt like wasted time, like lost years or missed opportunities, were in fact necessary gestation periods. Times of soul dormancy where the seeds of transformation were silently taking root beneath the surface of your suffering, waiting for the exact right moment to bloom, because the soul does not move according to the clock of the world. It moves according to the rhythm of eternity, and the moment you choose to stop betraying it, even if you've spent decades running from it, is the moment you begin to reclaim the one thing that no one can give you and no one can take from you, the sacred dignity of a life lived in alignment with your deepest truth. So let this be that moment. Let this be the beginning, not of a new persona, not of another performance, but of your return to the center, your descent into the depths, your ascent into wholeness. Let this be the day you finally say no to the voices that demand you remain small, silent, and safe, and say yes to the wild, untamed, terrifying, beautiful voice that whispers from the deepest parts of you, "This is your life." Do not waste it trying to be anyone else, because the soul you were given is not here to be edited, outsourced, or postponed. It is here to be lived, fully, fiercely, and fearlessly. And you, if you choose to listen, if you choose to feel, if you choose to return, can still stop the slow erosion of meaning, still reclaim the path you thought was lost, still become the person you were always meant to be. Not in theory, not in fantasy, but in truth, in silence, in presence, in the sacred unfolding of your one irreplaceable, astonishingly real life.